Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so I'm at the park with my daughters. We're on a mission to get some sashimi and some olives. My older daughter Sarah yesterday wanted to eat some olives, and today decided she wanted sashimi, so we're gonna go to the grocery store. But before we do that, we're stopping off here, and then we're gonna go down these steps and go along another road and just sort of take the long way around. And I'll show you what kind of sashimi we're going to buy. Now, sashimi, of course, for those of you who don't know, is just straight up raw fish. So if you have like sushi roll, like a roll would be sushi, or if you have the fish on rice, that would be sushi. But sashimi is just sliced raw fish, and I'll show you what we get. It's basically like a slab of, we're probably gonna get salmon, and then my wife will cut it, and I guess that's a cheaper way to do it. You can get it pre-cut, but my wife is cool cutting it, and so that's what we're gonna do. And I've given my daughters a little bit of money. My youngest has 20 yen, two 10 yen coins, and Sarah has 110 yen. And so it's kind of interesting. They we'll see if they can hold on to their money and not lose it. Sarah was holding the 1,000 yen note, but I thought that might be a little much for her. So we'll see. We'll see if they can hold on to their money. Anyway, so, okay, let's talk a little bit horology. So, when it comes to a watch, value really is in the eye of the buyer and the holder, and the potential buyer. And an interesting thing happened last night. I had put a notice on a Grand Seiko that I had my eye on. It kind of an interesting dial, a beautiful black dial, and the chapter ring was kind of interesting. It was sort of divided up into quarters, and one alternating black and gray. I'll put a link in the description. I got the notice and had another 30 minutes or so before the auction ended, and it was selling for $500, which is 50,000 yen. Quartz Grand Seiko. Now, that's a really good price. But I didn't do it, and I realized that at that moment, yeah.
That little boy was trying to hit Sophie.
Really, well, he's just rambunctious. I'm sure he didn't mean any harm by it.
もう一つのちっちゃい人はイブキっていうの。
イブキさん？あなたの名前イブキさん？イブキ？
イブキ。
あなたが？
違う。イブチンがさ、黒い上着着てる人。
That's
ちゃんさ、ピンクの上着さ、大好きじゃん。見えた。
so.
ほら、来た。
All right, that's Ibuki. Ibuki? All right, guys. Well, anyway, sorry, got off on parenting tangent there. Two kids that are about the same age as my two kids, and so they're interacting. It's pretty funny to see. The little boy is a bit rambunctious for Sophie, I think, but it's a learning experience, and they're fine. Where was I? We're talking Grand Seiko. Yes, Grand Seiko. Back on task, back on topic. All right. In essence, I, up until yesterday, if asked, hey, would you like to pick up a pretty nice Grand Seiko Quartz for $500? I probably would have said, yeah, jump on it. But faced with the option, the reality, I decided against it. I didn't bid, not one bid. And I realized that for me, a Grand Seiko Quartz isn't even worth $500. turn me on that much, which was weird, surprising. Could I have flipped it for more? That's the question. Ugh. Yeah, sometimes I think about buying watches and flipping them. I have no experience selling a watch, so I'm sort of,
英語のお父さん
yeah,
なんで
make
さ
it,
なんでね英語喋ってんですか
アメリカで英語を使われてるから。Yeah, she asked, why do you speak English?
あのね ABCD とかできるんだよ
できます。できます。ABC できますよ。A, B, C, D, E, F, G. おあなたもできる。Excellent! よかった。できる。Good for you! よかった。本当に上手。All right, so she asked me, why do I speak English? And I said, because it's what language is used in my country. And then she asked about the ABCs, and I started off singing the ABCs, and she finished it off. Good for her. She's a very, very articulate little girl. We've seen her before, and it's exactly the type of person, exactly the type of little girl that I want my older daughter Sarah hanging out with. Very articulate, a talker, and very reasonable and rational. And I think I don't know how old she is, maybe 3. 何歳ですか? 何歳ですか? Oh, you're 4. Okay, she's 4. Anyway, little girls are very articulate. They're a pleasure to parent, I gotta say. Anyway, we're getting off on tangents here. Parenting tangents. Okay, so faced with 500 USD Seiko Grand Quartz, I didn't pull the trigger. My metal was tested, and I decided no value. Well, not no value, but just not worth laying out that kind of money for a quartz. I don't know if it's the quartz. Yeah, I mean, look, it's the most respectable quartz out there for sure. It would check off that Grand Seiko box, but I really quartz just leaves me cold. Even the fantastic 9F quartz. I've come to realize that as sort of interested as I may be in a Grand Seiko quartz and even a spring drive, I really am a mechanical watch kind of guy. I think that right now, these days, the high beat Grand Seikos I think are turning me on a little bit more. $500 $50,000 N for a high beat Grand Seiko in the same condition as this one, I probably would have done it. I certainly would have done it. So it's kind of interesting. Your conception of value very well might change when faced with a reality of laying out that kind of money. Anyway, I think I mentioned selling watches, and that's something I kind of would like to get into in a way, just because as I get watches, I feel like I need to let watches go, and that is seems like sort of a pain in the ass. Payment, PayPal, and all this kind of stuff. Oftentimes it seems like the buyer is at the advantage. If you're talking something like this, Seiko, not that big of a deal. I mean, this is small money compared to, Grand Seiko or certainly a Rolex. So that's a tough thing. I don't know. I mean, if any of you guys have sold a watch, how did you do it? And how did it work? I'm thinking bank transfer would be the way to go. I've got a account in the States, and I could have the money transferred there if it was a buyer in the States. And then yeah. Anyway, that's a bit of a separate issue, I guess. But yeah. So I've come to the conclusion that a Grand Seiko quartz really doesn't have much value for me, at least not 500 USD value. and that's a great price. That's more than reasonable. You can't really expect much more of a deal than that when it comes to Grand Seiko. So yeah. Anyway, let's pan down and let me talk about the Seiko I have on my wrist. The Seiko 5. Now, it is Sunday, and as you can see, the Sunday is written in red lettering. I'm gonna do a full review of this, like a really in-depth review, and talk about what I like about it and what I dislike about it. One of the things I think is kind of neat, though, is the red lettering on the Sundays. On calendars here in Japan, Sundays are often written in red, as are national holidays. And so I think this is Seiko telling you today is a day off. Today is a day not for work, which is kind of interesting. Or it's just, you know, matches up with the paper calendars. Saturday is blue, which is kind of interesting. I like that. Monday to Friday, black. Saturday, blue. Sunday, red. I don't want to talk too much about this watch because that'll eat into my dedicated video of this watch. So we'll just leave it there. But yeah, off to get sashimi and olives. Hi guys, so here's the we've got cut sashimi. It's not too expensive at all, but then over here is the self-cutting sashimi that you can buy and then cut it at home. And I think we're gonna go. Which one are we gonna do, Sarah? What looks good for you? You want this? So you want tuna? You want tuna? I don't know about that. What about
Sashimi.
what about salmon?
Sashimi.
Well, this is sashimi, but what do you want? You got to choose which kind of fish you want. Is this what you want? Are you sure?
What is this then?
I think this is katsuo.
I don't know.
This is a pot. You love this. Why don't you get salmon? Guys, I will say that the advantage of getting this is it comes with grated daikon, which is just raw Japanese radish under the fish, and these are leaves of shiso. That's it, shiso, and it's kind of nice. You know, get a piece of fish and wrap it in a leaf or with the shredded daikon. There it is. And dip it in the soy sauce and the wasabi, and it's amazing.